Hey Aquarius, 'tis I, your frequently absent friend Vincent. We're here today with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and I'm going to apologize in advance. I seem to be having some difficulty with language today, so if I'm like slurring my words or having trouble finding the right ones, I promise I'm not on drugs or alcohol. I just am having an interesting day. Okay. Now, personally, I am dealing with an Aquarius moon that I can't seem to quite figure out. So forgive me if I read into your reading a little bit to figure out what is going on. And I say deal with lovingly, because this is not my first rodeo with an Aquarius moon. Y'all always seem to evade me. Okay. So we have an approach. The Eight of Wands here, to me, is kind of conveying this influx of interest, inquiry about what you're doing, how you're doing it, possibly attempting to understand your process with a certain project, or maybe just generally asking how you're doing, and if you'd like to go on a date. This to me just signals the approach of some new information or some new opportunities, which might pull you out of your rhythm a little bit. But you can kind of lean into it. Like, it doesn't have to be something disruptive. It can be something that you actually sort of weave into your process, into your routine somehow. You have the Three of Wands right next to it, and I think that kind of communicates to me a very deliberate and intentional discourse taking place. Whatever this new opportunity, this new information, this new possibly even approach. I'm going to pull more cards, and maybe that'll kind of help color this picture in a little bit. But to me, this Three of Wands with the Eight of Wands, it kind of just feels to me like you're being very strategic about how you approach this potential partnership. And I say potential partnership because we also have the Six of Coins right here. And this to me, and very obviously with the imagery of this particular deck, communicates this theme of exchange, of measured input-output with regards to another party or person. I don't necessarily feel like there's nefarious or ulterior motives on your end. I just feel like you're being very and you want to be very intentional with how you approach this partnership, if that's what it is. It can be professional partnership, or it can be romantic, could even be platonic, like purely just friends. But I think you're at a point in your life now where you kind of already have everything that you need, and so you're taking things that attempt to approach you very cautiously and very methodically. You want to make sure that it's actually adding value to your life rather than subtracting value from your life, because you've already done that. You've already been through the carousel ride with people who have no value to bring into your life, and rather would like to steal your energy and kind of siphon you away from yourself. We have the Hermit card here, kind of forming the base or the heart of the reading. And this to me can indicate that, yeah, you're in a very introspective, reflective mood, maybe, but it also to me indicates this reflection that's happening. Like, okay, you received a text from somebody, or you received that email, you received something from someone outside of yourself, some new approach kind of coming in, and now you're kind of deliberating over how to approach this. or if you even want to approach this. I think that's maybe another issue that's kind of coming through. But you have the Ace of Wands right here. And this is on my right-hand side, and I think that really indicates that you are interested, and that you do see potential here, that you do see something with room to grow. But I feel like you're being very careful about how you approach it, because you don't, A, maybe you don't want to ruin it, B, maybe you don't want to invite unwanted attentions or unwanted situations. Just, I think, because past is prologue, kind of just considering everything that's already happened up until this point, and so you're just trying to be very careful. Maybe seeing a lot of different situations around yourself kind of not working out well. Like, I'm seeing these two cards together, the Three of Wands and the Six of Coins, as being a situation, if this is like something professional, being a situation where you're sort of watching the workplace change, new people leaving, new people coming in, old people leaving, possibly old people coming in. Like, it's just this weird, like, everything's unsettled, everything's moving around, nothing is quite stable. Maybe you're moving around, you're kind of all over the place, and it's very difficult for you to sit still. And I think that's why the Hermit is here in the middle too, just kind of conveying this need for stopping and breathing for a minute so you can kind of determine which direction is the appropriate one to go in. But I feel like you're capable of balancing multiple projects, for lack of a better term. There's something here about just time management, I think, is what it kind of comes down to. Like, yes, you want to fit this new thing in. You see the potential, you see that it maybe can, maybe the conclusion is that it can offer some value to you. It does offer an opportunity to develop yourself, develop your life. But it's just a matter of really figuring out how best to allocate your resources to nurture it. You have the Three of Swords, and I was really kind of, it just felt natural to set this next to the Ace of Wands before I even flipped it over. So I think that's kind of interesting. Like, there's a lot of doubt here. There's a lot of, again, going back to the past as prologue thing, there's potential in your mind for things to go very sour, for things to go very wrong. And I think that's just kind of come to your attention because of situations where you were taken advantage of in the past, or where you were lied to, or where maybe a situation just kind of reached a culmination point where two separate parties could no longer go in the same direction together. You grew together to a point, and now it was time to separate. And so this is kind of like the terms of agreement, which sort of enshrined the separation, so to speak. And there can be an element of like personal sacrifice there, of course, because you're giving up an opportunity with someone or with the company, however this played out. Kind of moving on from this situation. And I think maybe that has kind of allowed a little doubt to creep into your mind about this new situation that's coming in. But I want to see, like, is it even worth, like, really entertaining those doubts? Or is it more appropriate to use those experiences as information or informing how better to navigate this new situation that's coming in? What is it? Okay. So we have Mars showing up with the Tower card. Like, in order for this new thing to come in, there's gonna be a bit of upset. I mean, obviously you have to move some pieces around. You have to move your schedule around, and realign, reallocate, as I said, your resources. I think this combination of the Hermit with the Tower is kind of interesting because, the Hermit card is Virgo's card. And when you combine the energy of Mars with Virgo, you get a very pragmatic approach to things, very methodical, very thought out. Every action is carefully deliberated, and it's not just kind of reckless, wild abandon, because that's not at all Virgo's style. Virgo likes to think things through, and it tempers Mars' otherwise natural tendency to just kind of explode and do whatever it wants whenever it wants, and be very reckless and careless and possibly hurt itself and everyone around it. Virgo very much tempers that and grounds it, and also kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like, there's this process of really not diluting, but very finely tuning the energy into very specific, detailed work. Things that require very powerful concentration in order to bring about. This can be like an art project too. Like, I can kind of see that. And maybe part of the process, this is like another interpretation of some of the cards that are on the table right now, is really honing in on how you value yourself and how you expect others to value the work that you do, especially if you're going through this process of really fine-tuning and concentrating very intensely to bring something into creation. And kind of doing away with those old thoughts and doubts that kind of say, oh, you didn't do good enough to charge this amount. Like, you didn't do enough to consider your work to be this valuable, if that makes sense. And I think maybe part of what this new energy that's coming in is to challenge that, kind of force you out of that shape, if that makes sense. You have the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups is interfacing with this Eight of Wands here. To me, kind of communicating this sense that something about this new energy that's coming in is really forcing you to contend with new options, new visions, things that you hadn't really considered before, either because you had your head down in the work and you were just doing the thing, going through the motions. Not that you weren't like actively engaged or passionate about what you were doing, but I think there was very much like tunnel vision going on. And this Eight of Wands input, this new message, this new approach, this new inquiry is breaking you out of that, and could be very, violently breaking you out of that, but forcing you to contend with options that you hadn't considered before. And there is this tendency to really get lost in that, especially when you combine the Hermit card with that card and the Three of Wands. Like, it can be very overwhelming to have these possibly fantasies, but just these different potentialities sort of dancing in your mind. It's very distracting, and it's very difficult to kind of make sense of which is the right thing to go for, or which is the best one to sort of put your attention on. But I don't know. I don't know if this new energy that's coming in is going to help you refine things, or if it's just really sort of blowing things open so that you can figure that out for yourself in time. But I'm going to pull some more cards and we'll see. Okay. So this card specifically came out with me inquiring about this new energy that's approaching you, this Eight of Wands energy. And so this to me can actually represent like a physical person. It doesn't always have to, but it's the sort of energy, or it's a sort of person who is very practical, very pragmatic, very deliberate, very slow, takes their time coming to decisions, makes sure that all the details are squared away, likes the blueprints to be completed, all of the supply lists to be completely accounted for and audited, every little thing to be squared away to a T before the action is initiated. And And I think maybe part of the reason why that's kind of blowing open your previous narrow focus is that this is a person who actualizes things. This is a person who can make ideas real. And that's very potent, that's very powerful. And it's forcing you to contend with the fact that if you really want to pursue something, you can actually make it real, because this person is a living example of that process. And maybe that does introduce a lot of fears, because now it's like, okay, so my dreams are possible. What I want is something that I can actually have. And that's a terrifying thought, because it makes it real. It's no longer allocated to the realm of fantasy or the, just purely your daydreams. It's like, it's something that you can make real, but it's going to require a deliberate process. This process of really sort of clamping down on the Mars energy and focusing it into something very persistent, very deliberate, something that's going to take a while perhaps, especially because this Knight of Pentacles is a very slow and deliberate energy. But it's lasting, it has staying power. As long as the roots are set deep, this is something that can flower and blossom into something pretty profound, I think. So, where do we go from here, I guess, is the next question. I'm dropping the cards a lot today. I don't know if all of these want to come out. I'm going to keep going. Sorry. This one leapt out and said me. Okay. Where do we go from here is the Knight of Cups. And they're going in the same direction, which I kind of like. They're moving together, but with slightly different approaches. This figure provides the practical backbone of the circumstances of this new idea, this new project, this new partnership. And this person provides the emotional framework, which nurtures it, which supports it. This is the inspiration. This is the excitement, the love, the joy, the passion. And it waters and fertilizes the earth that this person is bringing in. I think this can be a very fruitful partnership. But yes, I think with the Knight of Cups especially, it does require a certain amount of vulnerability and willingness to accept potentially emotional contracts with somebody. Because there's a depth and a vulnerability to this Knight of Cups. And it's almost, the image that's coming to mind as I'm looking at it is like these people meeting up for the first time to discuss something, whatever this Eight of Wands energy is. It's like they're talking about that and trying to figure out how to mesh their two slightly different approaches together to make this, to bring things to fruition in this specific way. I feel like this Eight of Wands is the end goal, and this is the process of deliberating, but they're doing it at a bar with this Knight of Cups. And it's like they're getting a little intoxicated, and the thoughts are kind of flowing fluidly and maybe a little unorthodox. But there's a vulnerability there too, because you get to see the unfiltered thoughts of each person. And I think that's going to sort of deepen the bond, deepen the connection, and allow it to feel more easy. Not that you guys are getting like sloshed, or that you even necessarily have to be drinking together or getting inebriated together. It's just this I think it's just this way of communicating to me through the imagery that there is a need for being unfiltered, for being vulnerable with one another and being truthful, and making sure that that's the bedrock of the relationship. We have the Six of Cups also showing up in the reading, and I think that's quite interesting. Because yes, this is innocent, vulnerable love. And as long as that's the framework, your shared joy of being with each other, your shared joy of the vision that you both share, needs to be the foundation of this entire process. You know, and I'm tempted with Tower here to say, otherwise it'll fall apart. But I think more fundamentally, it's like, I feel like this is going to happen. Like all the pieces are in play to sort of push you into this direction, whether or not you want it to, or it's like it's something larger than you. You know, it's the culmination or the combination of both of these polarities of the water and the earth kind of coming together to create something that has a life and a drive of its own. Like, it's not up to you, it's going to come through you both. But there's going to be some hiccups on the way, some things that you got to work through, doubts. You have the King of Wands also kind of showing up. I think this is maybe the energy that you have to keep focused. I think, interesting that the Hermit kind of stood out to me for a split second. There's a sort of parallel with the fact that obviously he's holding a wand or a staff, and so is the Hermit. I think this, to me, being at the heart of the reading, is communicating this need to be persistent, to stick by this, to stick with it, to keep your passions and your focus aligned so that this thing can come to fruition, so that this partnership can blossom. Stay true to the goal, keep the end target in sight, and don't lose sight of that, don't get distracted. You know, I feel like whatever it is that needs your full attention is going to make itself very obvious to you in a way that maybe it hasn't been up until this point with the Seven of Cups here. Like, there's just a little bit too much going on and you weren't quite sure where things were going to go. And then you have this very refining force coming in and saying, only one of these arrows is going to hit the target, and it's that one. Which one? I don't know. That's for you to kind of start determine, but I think this energy that's coming in is going to help you figure that out. You know, listen to this person's advice if it's somebody approaching you with advice, or if it's somebody reaching out to you in an unexpected way. Be open to it, be receptive to it, because it might have something to teach you, or it might have something to help you break out of maybe a rut that you've been in. If you've been feeling stuck at all, or isolated, or like the work that you're doing is going unnoticed, or like it's not really going anywhere, things are going to start moving very quickly, very deliberately, I should say, not quickly. You know, this is going to be a very careful and slow process, and it's going to flux and flow, it's going to wax and wane. But I think this is how you know that something is worth the investment, is when it has this very slow and deliberate approach in your life, because that's proof that it will last, or it can be proof that it'll last, I guess. It's not to say that there aren't going to be moments where the energy's moving very quickly and frantically and it's things are popping off. It's just, look at the larger picture. Take a step back. Be like the Hermit and reflect and consider where all this is going. Because I feel like these aren't just like isolated occurrences. These aren't just isolated experiences. Like, this has been an ongoing process with a thread that you can follow through it all. Trying to see if there's anything else that wants to come through. I'm gonna pull one more card with the specific intention of asking for like a key time period to look out for. Maybe it's the time period of this approach, or maybe it's a time period where things will make more sense. Maybe things will become manifest. I think we'll go with this card, the Chariot. Okay, so Cancer. The sun is in Cancer right now, so maybe this is kind of the culmination period, which also makes sense because Cancer starts at the northernmost solstice, you know, the height of the sun's tropical motion. I'm also getting the sense like when you feel like you're being conveyed through your experiences, when you feel like situations are sort of happening to you without your input, without you really having to do anything, that's when you know you're entering into this very fertile period of time where things are going to start changing and opportunities are going to start presenting themselves to you. And I think you need to make sure that you're ready to grasp onto them when they come, because the window of opportunity, not that it's small, but it can be missed. And it's very much up to you whether or not you engage with it, whether or not you welcome it in. And you know, you have to kind of deliberate that for yourself, whether or not it is something that you are going to pursue or give credence to, give your time and attention to, because ultimately everything is your choice. But I just want you to notice when it starts to feel like you're being pushed or guided or carried along through your day-to-day experience. Pay more attention to what's happening and be very intentional with how you interact with the people that present themselves to you, the messages that come to you, the opportunities that show themselves to you. And try to be a little strategic. Employ this Knight of Pentacles energy. This to me also like makes me think of like a chess player, like being very strategic, very deliberate, making sure that all the moves are accounted for and measured accordingly to achieve a specific end goal. Like that's the sort of approach that you need to take in order to clear out any confusion or uncertainty about where to go next. And again, this can be somebody who actually physically appears in your life, who has that sort of mentality and helps you to embody it for yourself. Or more generally, it can just be that that's a mindset that sort of starts to precipitate in your own consciousness. One more thing I do want to mention with this Chariot card, I feel compelled to say, don't pursue something merely based on the appearance it'll give your life, if that makes sense. If making a specific choice will guide you into an opportunity that allows you to build a certain image of yourself or a certain definition of success, a certain projection is also what I'm hearing. Make sure you take the time to hear what you actually think about that specific situation. Like, yes, this is potentially a definition of success, but is it your definition? Make sure that you're not just getting the nice car and the fancy house and the nice clothes. If that's what you want, then by all means go for it. But get to the heart of the situation. Make sure that your integrity is preserved and that when you find yourself at the other end of this situation and you have accomplished what you set out to accomplish, that you're going to be happy with it. Don't base your happiness and definitions of happiness that come from outside of you. Don't pursue something because it's expected of you. Pursue it because it's something that you want to do, something that you want to pursue, something that you want to incorporate into your life. And make sure that you take the time to ken the difference because it can be very difficult sometimes to separate those things. Separate what you actually want at your heart from what it is that you think that you want. Follow the truest desires. All right. I think that's it for now, Aquarius. I will see you soon. And wishing you well. Pay attention. Pay attention.